Welcome back to Patrick Christie's Tonight. It's time now for the head-to-head. So, are we doing enough for asylum seekers and migrants in Britain? Well, the Equality and Human Rights Commission certainly doesn't seem to think so. It's marked the government down for not giving migrants greater access to taxpayer-funded support. That's right. Dr Mary Ann Stevenson, the Commission's chairwoman, says that ministers should implement UN recommendations, including reconsidering rules that currently prevent many migrants from being able to claim benefits and housing assistance. But that may be hard for Brits to stomach, especially given the government is already spending billions dealing with the asylum system, all while British families are struggling with their own housing and their own bills. And in fact, I think it was on the front of today's Daily Express, wasn't it? That plenty of pensioners out there are going to face an incredibly tough winter as their energy bills go through the roof. So tonight I'm asking, should we really be offering asylum seekers and migrants even more? Going head-to-head on this now are Harrison Almanvati, who's the leader of Reform UK Elmbridge Borough Council, and Dan Qayyum, who is the editor at Pakistan Playbook. Thank you very, very much. Right, Harrison, I'll start with you. So what do you make of the fact that we are now being urged to essentially give more to migrants and asylum seekers?
Well, my initial response was I actually thought it was a spoof. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I talk about how out of touch is the. I mean, I've never heard of this lady before. I don't know who she is or what kind of power she actually wields. God forbid any. And I actually couldn't believe it. I think you try explain that to the average family who's, for example, on a housing register or someone who is trying to get back into work and doesn't feel like they have the support they need. And they think the answer to the problems that are, well, one of the biggest problems polled, according to people in this country, is to give more to migrants. I mean, it's just baffling. I mean, as a local councillor, I've seen firsthand the fact that we've got 2,500 people on our housing register, yet we've just spent £12.5 million on homes for Afghanis. So it's like, there is a complete misplace of priorities amongst people who I'm sure don't have any malice or mean harm, but realize that by choosing one group they've directly given from another.
Okay, well, yeah, go on then, Dan. Do you want to come back to that?
I just wanted to add, I've got a slightly different point of view on this. So basically, if we look at what the government has cancelled, they've cancelled the cheap, sensible things that actually help people stand on their own feet and get off the taxpayer system. They've left the expensive emergency stuff running exactly as it was. And these cuts in the wrong places I think that's the real problem, because the UK, I don't think it's doing enough of the things that would actually work. And what the EHRC actually found, its own report is worth getting right, because it's not what people assume. It's saying that the government cancelled the legal duty to support asylum seekers who would otherwise be destitute, and it cancelled a scheme that helped refugees get into work. Now think about that for a second. Someone arrives, they're allowed to work, they get help finding a job. Within months, they're paying taxes instead of relying on the state. That's what's been taken off. So that's where
I'd be quite interested to hear what your definition of a refugee is. Do you mean people that are coming across on the boats? Would that be your definition?
No, that's an illegal migrant, right? Someone claiming asylum wants to land. I'm not sure of the process in the UK, but once they claim asylum, then it should be. And this is the other problem we have: is the process is just so long, and that's where it makes it more expensive. You're putting people spending billions on hotel rooms when this could be done within months rather than years. Right,
but the people in those hotels, and this is where the anger is a lot of people would say that they're not refugees, because if you were to close your eyes and picture a refugee, you'd probably think a distressed mother and a child who have come out of their way to flee war and terror. But realistically, that isn't the case in the UK, where it's the case of you've got tens of thousands of people who don't fit that profile at all. And it makes you beg the question, well, what kind of man leaves a war zone? And also there's also questions like, well, if you are fleeing genuine terror, you'd stop at your first immediate safe country, which certainly isn't the UK. So I don't know, there's just so many questions. I just think it's just been going on for years. This is the whole point. It's been going on for years now, and the patience of British people, British taxpayers, expired years ago. So now this is beyond an insult. It's comical.
Yeah, see, the thing is, look, you fix there's two wrong ways to fix a broken system, and one is by being more generous, the other is by being more hostile. You only fix a broken system by making it work. So what's not working at the moment, well, you gave a great example, you've got someone living next door who's a refugee, but doesn't, fit the bill of a refugee. So obviously something in the system is going wrong, which is processing this guy as a valid refugee.
Yeah.
The processing needs to be very quick, very decisive.
I think this to me screams to the kind of thing that, and by the way, the person who fronts up the Equality and Human Rights Commission, I think she's taking home a cool 150 grand a year so that she could basically tell us all that we need to pay a lot more towards people who've only just arrived in our country. I think for me, Dan, this is the kind of thing that maybe you could float if everything's rosy in the garden. If the economy's booming, we're all right, we've got youth unemployment at a minimum. But actually, it's not that, is it? We've got a social housing crisis. We've got a housing crisis generally. The economy's not doing very well. Our borrowing is absolutely astronomical. You all know the drill, right? Kind of near record levels of youth unemployment, all of that. And then for someone to come out and ask the British taxpayer, Dan, to help more people who have only just arrived in this country, I just don't think the British public want that.
I completely agree. I think it's the framing that we need to get correct. See, the real failure here, which is making this a much bigger issue than it should be, is the speed. We've got 40,000 crossings this year. The system cannot keep up. You've got the real failure that the system cannot process people fast enough to know who has a genuine case. That delay is expensive for the taxpayer, since every month, a hotel room, as we said, is a month of pure cost. It's expensive for the person stuck in the limbo as well, right? So speeding that up simply makes the system function properly. Less people are being put out into temporary housing or makeshift. It's just chaos. I see the system as complete chaos. And once you fix some of that.
The problem with making it too attractive, my issue with it is the more attractive you make it, there is a reason why people don't stop at France and they come to the UK, is because they do see it as a better deal than France. And the problem is, if you can continue to make it more attractive, I would argue that people like this lady here, there is actual responsibility on them to say that by making it more attractive, more people will take that risk to cross the channel, and subsequently more people will lose their lives, because it is a risky journey coming across. So I think the fact that it's becoming a sweeter deal makes it even more compelling for people to abuse the system.
And what's part of that sweet deal that people see, the economic migrants? They see the system taking years and years. They will find benefit fraud. They will find a way to make some money. I'm talking about obviously the non-genuine ones. And they see this as an attractive system purely because it takes so long. And it's just so chaotic.
We also make it, we also make it incredibly easy for them. Again, for them to give the British government, given the amount that we are doing, again, we're about to move a load of illegal migrants into little villages around the country. There's a village in Wales that's just had their town hall turned into 16 brand new flats for asylum seekers, etc. For them to give the lowest ranking possible to the government and say we need to implement the UN's beliefs about this, it kind of just makes me feel how out of touch some of these groups really are, and hopefully the government doesn't listen to them. But anyway, look, chaps, thank you very much. I enjoyed that. It was a good bit of back and forth there, so thank you. All the very best to both of you. That is Dan Qayyum, who is the editor at Pakistan Playbook, and Harrison Almanvati is leader of Reform UK, Elmbridge Borough Council. Right, coming up,